guys?
Last one.
Now here's one of the skylights I talked about, but before I describe the skylight, I would like to locate us in relation to outside. This skylight is at the corner of First and Yesler. It's right in front of Rocky Mountain Chocolate. The reason I point that out, when we go back outside in a few minutes, we're going to walk on top of that skylight. Make sure you look for that. They brought the skylights in when they created the tunnels. Now, the underlying theme of this tour is progress. What do you think the merchants saw when they created the tunnels? Opportunity. Here's more space to sell. Combination of storefronts, but they would also stack goods up. They would build stairs down here to get to the goods. Then they brought the skylights in to bring natural light down to that new shopping area. It didn't last too long though, because in 1907 they discovered the plague down here. They condemned the underground. Then it went into multiple use as a junkyard, dumping ground, and for illegal activities until about the 1950s. Then for a brief period, the city got together with the missions and opened an underground mission. We just passed by a big open space. They set up partitions. They had beds. It was warm, clean, and safe. But once property owners figured out we can make money, they pushed out the homeless. Now in 1965, Bill Speidel got permission from the city to start the tours. A couple more things about the skylights. They are located throughout the entire neighborhood. Unfortunately today, most of these skylights have either been cemented over, boarded over, or taken out completely because they're not structurally sound. Now when you go outside, you're going to notice a but a distinct purplish tint to the glass. It didn't start that way. In the 1800s, an element was added to glass called manganese. Manganese was put in glass to keep it from turning a sepia color or a moss color. The irony is, when manganese reacts with sunlight, it will eventually turn the glass purple. I have to assume someone expects a ghost story. Before I tell the ghost story, I'm going to prep it with my favorite history story. Now it's kind of unique. This is about the most important economic event in the city's entire history. And I know what you're thinking, Microsoft, but no, this is the 1800s. It actually took place north of the border in the Canadian territories. It was the famous 1897 Klondike Gold Rush, and this is how it affected Seattle. One day in July of 1897, a ship pulled into Elliott Bay called the SS Portland. They had actually wired ahead the day before, and the wire said, "We have a ton worth of gold on board. We just came from the Klondike." Well, because they wired ahead the day before, the day the Portland pulled in, everyone in Seattle was on the shoreline to greet the Portland, and then they found out it was actually 2 tons worth of gold on board. That's all it took. That knowledge set gold fever on the shoreline. Everyone had the same thought: we're going to head up to the Klondike. We're going to get gold out of the ground. We're going to be rich. It's not the way it works up there, guys. Incredibly beautiful, but also incredibly rugged. It's even tougher and experienced mountain man. So the early miners heading up were not prepared, and they were dying in the Klondike. Well, there was one guy on the shoreline with a different perspective. Now his name was Erastus Brainerd. He was a former ad man from New York, Harvard educated. His thought was, I still have contacts back in the eastern cities. So I'm going to get on the wires, spread the word throughout the eastern cities. Before you head up to the Klondike, why don't you stop in Seattle to buy your supplies? Well, and then the Canadian government jumped in and helped us out quite a bit. The early miners heading up were not prepared. They were dying in the Klondike. The Canadian government got tired of bailing out gold miners, so they came up with a law that helped out our city tremendously. It's called the 1-ton law, which stated when you reach the border, if you want to pass over to the Klondike, prove to the Mounties that you have a ton worth of supplies, the equivalent of a year's worth of supplies. Well, thanks to the contacts and the efforts of Erastus Brainerd, most of that business was done in the city. So roughly 80% of the goods sold to the miners came through the city of Seattle. And the merchants decided to rip off the miners. It was called mining the miners. The miners were so clueless about conditions up there, instead of buying individual goods, they were sold Klondike packages. One of those packages included gold-finding gophers, which were incredibly useful in the Klondike. So to put this in perspective, this is the amount of money that ran through the city during the 2-year Klondike Gold Rush period. Before the gold rush, the economy in Seattle was $300,000 a year. After the gold rush got started, it shot up to $25 million in less than 8 months. Pretty big impact. This leads to my ghost story. We're about to walk through a corridor behind me that used to be part of a vault, part of a bank called the Scandinavian American Bank. Now that bank did business with the gold miners when they came back from the Klondike. The vaults were located down below, but the entrance to the bank was above by this skylight. Today it's the entrance to Rocky Mountain Chocolate. Now our ghost always makes his appearance by the bank vaults. This is the 45th anniversary of the Underground Tour. It's a lot of people have taken the tour. A lot of people have seen the ghost, and here's the eerie part of the story. They don't know the story ahead of time. Every time someone sees the ghost, they have the exact same description of a gentleman dressed in clothing from the 1800s that looks like a bank employee guarding the gold in one of those vaults. I fully realize you're skeptical, but we were able to convince 2 TV shows into telling our story. There's a popular series on the Sci-Fi Channel called Ghost Hunters. They were here 3 summers ago. Spent a full night down here. We were on their fall season premiere of season 3. Currently we're on YouTube and their website. If you want to see our episode, look us up on Ghost Hunters. This should clinch it for you. One of the early episodes of Scooby-Doo is down here. They have Scooby and Shaggy down here. That's all I need to know. Now here's some signs of possible activity as you walk down that corridor. When a ghost or a spirit is in an area or a room, it will take the heat out of that area. Notice the temperature in this section. See if it drops when you walk by the back vaults. If you have a digital camera, you might notice orbs or balls of light or energy floating in the air. That's a definite sign of activity. And I would say at least once a week, a group will walk through and everything electronic just dies. So there's some sort of a weird energy field in that one spot. So I'm going to lead the way. Let's see if anyone's at home.
Before they built the second one.
Thank you.